The reconstruction of the side aisles at the Mission of San Juan, what was the overall plan for the project that you know of?
Yeah, when they first viewed the mission in its state back in '75, Harry Downey he came here for 2 weeks off, every day, and they'd walk through. Mike Taylor and he looking at both sides of the mission. In the beginning, mostly the north side, because we felt we were going to start over there, because when we get a heavy rain, that side was going to be damaged the most by watershed, being that the mission had no gutters. So all the water just shed right off the roof and into that area. Let's take a big cart.
Let's stop there. Let's go get up in the bell tower.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm on.
Yeah, we're running.
We're running.
okay. As far as the restoration of the mid-1970s, what was the overall plan for the project?
Well, Harry Downey, who was in charge of it, came here for about 2 weeks, off and on, spent hours here with Mike Taylor, the contractor, walking through, discussing which way they would approach this restoration. And it was pretty much nature told us how we would do this. And we were expecting heavy rain soon. We hadn't had much rain. It was during a drought time, actually. And we were expecting heavy rain soon, and we knew that rain was going to be a big problem here on this type of a job, being on clay soil. We weren't going to have a lot of time to work in the mud. So we decided the north side would be best to start, get it done as it was in the cemetery area, and then shoot for the next year over here on this side in the garden area. Just about the same amount of work had to be done on both sides. It was just where we start first. Well, start over there, get down to where we can tear off all the old bricks to get down to the old foundation, see what it was like, being that the foundation is the most important part of any building. And it was easier to excavate in the cemetery then when it was dry than to worry about it in the mud. And then come over here, where we knew we weren't going to run into, artifacts as much as we did over there, especially human artifacts in the cemetery, and disturb anything. And so we felt a little bit better after we got that side done and came over here. We were already pretty experienced in what we were going to come across too.
And as far as any longer range projections, were there other plans to do additional construction or reconstruction?
Yeah, I think the restoration's an ongoing thing. As everyone knows, a house needs work all the time. This is just really a house. They felt that funds that they had at that time would be enough to cover the major part of restoration. But that if they were going to get more private funds or any kind of funds, that they could maybe be a little more done. That's why when I actually finished working here in '77, the tile roof was not on the main part of the roof yet. We had taken it off prior to that time, mostly as a precautionary measure while we were working on the lower parts of the other two aisles, so that the weight of that tile roof in an earthquake would not cause any damage to the arcade part, the archways inside, in the main aisle. So we'd taken it all off and just went with a temporary paper roof for about a year, just so that we knew if there was an earthquake, it'd be safer for the workmen and also safer for the mission too.
About how long did it take to remove the roof tile?
Well, that was pretty quick.
What was pretty quick?
Okay, to remove the tile on the main part of the roof didn't take long at all. We had a good forklift machinery in there to get it, and all we did was really put them in a stack, put them on a pallet, and take them down. As I recall, it may have taken about 2 weeks, and that's about it, to take the tile off. One of the main problems was where to put it. They were still having the rodeo. They still needed to use this area over here for the barbecue. There wasn't a lot of room behind the father's house, and so it turned out we stacked most of them just on the other side of this fence right here that you can see, and put them on a long row, and then put up a temporary fence to protect them from people that were coming in for the rodeo barbecue. But yeah, they sat there for a while before we could actually get them back up, and I wasn't even part of that. That was after the money kind of had run pretty thin, and they were asking for other bids on how much it was going to cost to actually put the roof back on. So Mike Taylor didn't get that work actually. Another
So
contractor
the
did.
actual removal of the roof tiles for safety reasons was done late in the project?
Yeah, it wasn't that late. Trying to think now how we did it, when we actually did take them off. It was probably before we started this side.
Oh, the south side?
The north side, they didn't feel the problem was there until I think we got into it where we saw where, hey, you know what? What if we do have an earthquake? It may have been word of mouth from the workers going, what happens if there's an earthquake? What's going to happen to that, center part of the mission? And so I think we convinced them that it would probably be better to take it off now since we're going to have to take them off anyway. Do it now when we got the money, the time, and get rid of the problem. Get rid of the fear that something might happen in a quake where it could be destructive to both the mission and us.
When the roof tile were laid out on the other side of the fence, do you recall this old well being open at all?
It had been talked about that there was a well there, and I know that many people had told us about the well, and we stayed away from that area as much as we could with equipment and everything. I didn't know much about it. All I really heard was that they wanted to someday open up the well and look into that as a restoration project.
Were there any unforeseen obstacles that the project planners hadn't foreseen prior to beginning or hadn't planned on once the project began?
Some small things were maybe we stumbled upon some different things that we didn't have an answer for. Let's put it that way. I think when we got to the bell tower especially, we really didn't have a plan. The original bell tower was never really built on this mission. The side aisles were. They were knocked down in 06, of course.
Oh, the rooster?
I heard I could hear
Plane.
the plane.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was good. That was good. Unfortunately, we had to cut it. I didn't want to stop that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep. You got to the train of thought, because I'm thinking back a few years.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to get you to comment on was the chronology. I mean, in terms of the sequence of events, north wall, south wall, roof tiles. What about the archways? When did they come in?
Yeah.
But we'll
Sure.
start up here in a second.
Sure.
Oops.
On your mark, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I forgot what that last question entailed.
Well, we were trying to figure out what sequence to. Okay, how am I going to start here?
If you were to give me a chronology or sequence of events.
There were some things. While the restoration was an ongoing thing, there were some things we'd stumbled across that were puzzling on what we were going to do next. Where do we start next? Even though we've got the north wall done, which we did first. Poured a bomb beam, concrete bomb beam, reinforced it, which we knew was better than the original construction. That we felt pretty confident in that type of a bond beam.
What is a bond beam?
Okay, a bond beam is actually, if you could picture a solid beam, full length of the mission, to reinforce the wall from moving in either direction, which it had gone to the north before. And then it's almost like building a foundation on top of a wall so that you can add another wall, which is the upper walls are actually higher. So you're reinforcing, which the rafters of the upper wall come over the lower wall. So the lower wall is now reinforcing the upper wall, which is bond beamed right there. So you've got a triangular reinforcement with something that we know is not going to move in one place. If it moves, it's going to move as one solid piece. Okay.
That was a good explanation.
Well, that's the way she goes. Yeah, anyway, as far as the sequence on the restoration, I know it was something that was discussed all the time. Okay, we haven't, and also there was always the, do we have enough money to do that? That was always a question that we, come across. So we kind of had to figure out what we were going to do next, how much it was going to cost, and whether or not it was going to be feasible, and so on.